Hi there, this is Steve Spurrier. You can join University of Florida Hall of Famer Shane Matthews and also the two-time SEC Player of the Year every weekday as he brings you all you need to know about the Florida Gators, including news, analysis, opinions, and some of the biggest names in sports. You can find him on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, or wherever you listen to your favorite podcasts. Or you can watch him live at 8 a.m. on Facebook, YouTube, or Twitter.
Good morning and welcome to a Friday edition, folks. You made it to Friday of PodUp with Matthews in the morning from the International Diamond Center studios. Don't forget, go check out International Diamond Center. They got fine jewelry, watches, you name it, they got it. It's family owned and operated with the largest selection of natural diamond jewelry. And they'll hook you up with a Spurrier Gridiron Grill gift card just for browsing. And don't forget, Valentine's Day is right around the corner. Today's program will have Kevin Brockway from the Gainesville Sun. We'll talk a little Gator hoops. Gators tip tomorrow in Knoxville, Tennessee against the Vols, noon. Got a lot of really good games tomorrow in the Southeastern Conference. And then we'll have Mark Long. We'll also talk a little Gator football with him, but mostly NFL, Jags, stuff like that. If you got any questions or comments, shoot them to us via the Titan MR text line, YouTube, Facebook, you name it. JLB says the intro is really choppy. I don't think so. It's the same intro we always have. It could be internet issues. Who knows? But in the meantime, you got the Pro Bowl this weekend. I'm sure a lot of people are excited about that. I'm not. I think it's still in Orlando, by the way. But tomorrow, the Gators have a big game against Tennessee. Tennessee coming off a loss at home to Kentucky. How will they respond? We'll get all that here momentarily from Kevin Brockway. Let's get to a couple of texts here on the Titan MR text line. A couple of them from the other day that I forgot to read. There's so many on here. We can do just a show of just me reading these. This is from a gentleman in the 407 area code. It says, Shane is a season ticket holder in our section. With bench seats, the seating is too tight. If you're a big guy or have big folks next to you, the allocated space is inadequate. You end up standing most of the game, no different from an airline seat. If the space is too small for you, the flight sucks. I agree. Before I did radio, I sat in the seats just like you. Had the same seats since I graduated in 92 when I became a season ticket holder. However, every game that I go to or every game that I witness from the press box, nobody sits. Doesn't matter what stadium you're in. Even the Mercedes-Benz Dome that has these nice luxury chair back plush seats. Everybody stands the entire game. The only time they sit down is during TV timeouts. And I've never understood that. You know, they built stadiums on inclines, like a 45-degree, I don't know the exact incline. So just sit your ass in the seat and watch the game. Why you have to stand makes no sense. Let's go to the Titan MR hotline, courtesy of Comfort Temp, and we're joined by the Gainesville Sun's Kevin Brockway. Kevin, good morning. How you doing, bud?
Good morning. How are you, Shane?
I'm good. I'm good. Were you at the women's basketball game last night when the girl from Vandy, did she drop 53 on us?
She dropped 53. I was not there, but I had heard about it because I had some friends that were there, and I was thinking back to that Chris Jackson game, right, in 1988 when he dropped 53 against the Gators, and that was he's a Southern Mississippi kid, right? Shane, did you know him or no?
I played against him. He was in my district. My high school basketball team went 23-5 and lost in the South State Championship game to Chris Jackson's team, Gulfport. But out of the 5 losses, we lost to his team 4 times. He was phenomenal in high school. And I'll never forget, you know, we lived in Yon Hall, and, you know, we'd have our workouts or whatever you're doing that day. You go, you know, the dining hall's right there in the stadium. You eat, and then you walk over to the basketball games. That's just what you did. I'll never forget sitting there in the dining hall, and I'm like, you people have no idea what y'all are getting ready to witness. This kid coming in from LSU, nobody knew who he was, right? They knew, I think Shaq was on that team, right? So they knew
Ricky Blanton. It might have been, yeah.
So they knew kind of who Shaq was. But I said, look, this kid, I played against him in high school. He is unbelievable. And he goes over and drops 53 on us. So Yeah, he was a phenomenal talent. But boy, for a female, what's the most a female's ever scored in like a college basketball game?
I don't know that, but this set a freshman record, apparently, an NCAA freshman record, because she's a freshman.
Oh, wow.
So obviously an unbelievable outing. And, I guess Florida made a comeback. They cut it to 6. A friend of mine at the game told me, but it's been a little tough sledding again for Kelly Ray Finley this season. And I know they got a young team again and trying to build there. But what a phenomenal performance by that girl from Vandy last night.
Yeah, that is incredible. All right, Kevin, Gators tip tomorrow. I didn't realize it was a noon tip to just a few minutes ago against Tennessee. I can't figure. I mean, Tennessee, we've all known under Rick Barnes, they've always had great athletes, play tremendous defense. And last year with Dalton Connect, they could score. They're still struggling there. And I know they got the kid from UNF that came over, the three-point shooter, but they're still struggling putting the ball in the basket. But this is like do or die game for them, don't you think?
Yeah, I kind of have a rule of thumb is that, the desperate team at home tends to really ratchet up their game. So this is going to be, I think, a really tough game for Florida because Tennessee's lost 2 in a row. They really need this win to kind of stay in it SEC-wise because right now they're 4-4. I've talked to some people up in Tennessee that kind of think that this team is, like you said, really struggling. They just struggle shooting from three-point range. And, Lanier was really good shooting in non-conference, but it hasn't carried over to the SEC. So it'll be, but it's going to be one of those games where Florida, they can't take a half off. I mean, if you think about it, Missouri and South Carolina, they kind of, first half didn't come out with the right intensity. If they don't come out with the right intensity in the first half of this game, Tennessee, could build a lead, and then you're putting yourself a lot of pressure on yourself playing uphill. And I think playing uphill against a team like Tennessee is tough just because they can really clamp down defensively on you.
Yeah, Daryl's text on the Titan Mar text line says, guys, I think we're going to have our hands full tomorrow with Tennessee. Um, I was flipping through the channels watching a little bit of that game against Kentucky the other night. I saw where Zakai Ziegler went out. Did he come back in the game, and what is his status?
Yeah, I haven't heard. I would have to check the availability report on that, but I did also, like I said, here he was banged up. They've got Jordan Gainey if need be. I mean, he's a pretty decent backup. But Ziegler, Ziegler's important to them, as is Lanier. They're just, I think the other thing too, Shane, is they're not getting the scoring from the front court. Igor Milicic, I mean, he's averaging about 10 and 8, and Aparo's averaging 7 and 5, 7 and 6 assists. So they really rely on their backcourt guys a lot for points. So losing Ziegler would be a big blow there.
Yeah, for sure. So Kevin, looking at the Gators. Well, first of all, we have a text here on the Titan Mar text line from James. He wants to know, Kevin, do you think Hanlockton is going to play any this year?
Yeah, now the latest I've heard is they're going to probably shut him down because I just, I think he probably had second thoughts, and, eligibility is an issue too. The fact that he's a junior and, might want to keep that season. I think personally, hey, he'd be a little bit of an upgrade as a fourth post guy over Sam Alexis, but I think that their thinking is, you have him for 2 more years after this year. It's still a tough injury to overcome, even though he has practiced pretty well the last month. So I wouldn't say never, but I would say highly doubtful at this point.
Yeah, and I was worried about chemistry. I mean, they've played a lot of games, 20 games or what have you, and the rotation is pretty much set. Not that he would screw it up, but the last thing you want to do is, I think he can bring something to the table, but if it causes you to get bounced for whatever reason in the tournament, people are going to second guess. So J&J Trucking says on YouTube, brought to you by Quality Plumbing, says Tennessee shot 11 for 45 from the 3. I have never seen a team shoot that much from the 3-point line. That is a lot of shots.
Yeah, again, I think that's because their bigs are so limited offensively that they seem to hoist up a lot of threes and they rely on it and don't dump it down as much as maybe they have in the past. And it's a tough way to live, in terms of, when you shoot that many threes for that low of a percentage, and we saw it, in the first meeting, they were 429. So I think they started out like 1 of 21 in that game. So, but when you're playing at home, you tend to shoot better. The sight lines of your gym, the rims. So I think that will obviously work in Tennessee's favor. And you just hope it's not one of those games where Tennessee's due and they hit a bunch of shots. You see that a lot in basketball too. A team is struggling and they break out of it. And you just got to, I think if you're Florida, you got to cross your fingers and hope that that's not the game where it happens. And you have to defend the 3-point line too. You have to make it hard for them to get shots up. I mean, Todd Golden pointed out yesterday, when you looked at the first meeting, they did have a lot of open threes in that game that they just missed. So Florida's going to have to be mindful of that and try to contest and rotate and fight through screens well.
Yeah, it's going to be an interesting game, no question about it, especially after what happened here. Rob says on YouTube, brought to you by Quality Plumbing, the problem is with Hanlockton redshirting, I guess he's referring to. What if he just transfers? Well, he transferred to us, so he could transfer out. You got to remember, majority of our team are transfers, so it comes and goes.
Yeah, Mike is the kind of kid I think, he's going to stay. If Todd is still there, he'll be there. You know what I mean? And I think that's, the main thing is that he's pretty loyal to this coaching staff. They've developed them pretty hard, so I don't see him leaving anytime soon. And they'll be playing time for him next year, I think.
Yeah. Silverback concrete builds firm foundations for generations. You stand on it. We stand by it. We got Kevin Brockway from the Gainesville Sun. Kevin, interesting game also. There's a lot of good games in the conference. Auburn's at Ole Miss, Mississippi State, Missouri, and then the Hogs of Arkansas travel to Rupp Arena. What do you think that's going to be like for Cal?
It's very interesting. Rick Pitino sent out a message. I don't know if you saw it yesterday on X, basically imploring the Kentucky fans, hey, look, treat this guy with class, because they've been showing a lot of video clips about when back in 2001 when Rick Pitino went back to Kentucky with Louisville for the first time, and just how roundly booed and the signs and so forth, and it was like a madhouse in there at Rupp Arena. And I think Cal's parting was a little different, and I think it was more of a mutual thing in terms of, Cal felt like he had maybe worn out his welcome a little bit because the second half of his tenure wasn't as successful as his first, and, felt like a change was needed. And, and I go back to Tubby Smith when he left Kentucky for Minnesota, that's the same thing. That job ages you. I mean, that's such a hard job in terms of fan expectations and what the pressures that are involved to keep winning there, that I think that it's a good I think he'll get the reception. It'll be a mixed reception, but I think there'll be some people that will be applauding. And listen, maybe times are also different in 2025 than they were in 2001 too.
Yeah. Franklin's text on the Titan MR text line says, Kevin, do you think Todd Golden will be the coach for the Florida Gators next year? Because there are going to be some openings at some big time schools.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. But, I don't see like a blue-blooded North Carolina, if that happens. North Carolina tends to still stick to their own, if you know what I mean, people with North Carolina ties. I know it didn't work out with Hubert, but it's not looking like it's working out with Hubert. But I think that they will, still look within that tree and within that family per se. I mean, Indiana, if they fire Mike Woodson, would be interesting, but I think also that they might look in the Midwest. Ben McCollum from Drake is a name that I'm hearing there, like a young up-and-comer. They could try to make a pass at Dusty May, too, even though he's only been at Michigan for 1 year. But absent of that, I think Todd would leave here if something happened, came up in the West, because that's where he's from.
Yeah.
But I don't know what, would Arizona State possibly open up with Bobby Hurley? And even if that's the case, is that really a better job than Florida too,
No, that one's not. So like when you talk about the people in the North Carolina family, are who out there? And you may not know right offhand. I don't want to put you on the spot, but who could replace Hubert Davis there at North Carolina?
Yeah, that's a good question. I'd have to put on my thinking cap a little bit for that, but it's I would look towards people that have ties to North Carolina. Would probably be they're very insular that way. They always have been. And, you go back to, well, obviously, Roy was very successful. Roy Williams, Matt Doherty before that wasn't quite as successful. Bill Guthridge was Dean Smith's longtime assistant. So yeah, it's a kind of, Carolina's a very cliquish kind of family that way. Now, hey, look, they went outside the box and hired Bill Belichick, so maybe
Right.
and that it's a new era that way, in football. And did you see they're putting grass on the field too? That's kind of interesting change there.
Hell yeah. Get rid of turf.
Steve Spurrier did back in the 90s.
I don't know why any coach or any athletic department, well, I know why the athletic departments, because it saves them on money in the long run, but turf is the worst thing you can possibly play on. Even the new turf. It's terrible. Put natural grass down. Speaking of Roy Williams, JC was playing craps with Roy Williams over in the Bahamas. Roy was there, I guess, on vacation. He sent me pictures of
Roy loves his Roy loves the casinos. Yeah.
Yes, he got very hot on the craps table, apparently. Tony wants to know here on Facebook Live, brought to you by Mel Law, does Miami drop basketball?
The Miami Hurricanes?
Yeah.
I mean, they just went to a Final Four 3 years ago. They're having a bad season, but
Tony's being funny, but they're horrible this year. I mean, horrible.
No, they are. They're very bad. But I mean, they had a nice window. All windows come to an end. Listen, people forget. Billy Donovan went 16 and 17 the year after he went to a Final Four. So it happens. All right. He went to the NIT 2 years in a row after the national championship. So sometimes windows close on you, and it's hard to replenish talent and chemistry every year. That's tremendously difficult. Look at what's happening in North Carolina too. I mean, Hubert Davis had that team in the Final Four a couple of years ago. So you never know. I mean, it can be cyclical, and sometimes you can hit a down cycle. So I would say this, that Miami's got to get the right coach. Obviously, it didn't end well for Jim Larinaga, and they're in a tremendously difficult conference. But listen, I would say this: I would never thought in my lifetime that, and you obviously know my ties, I never thought in my lifetime I'd see Miami go to a Final Four in basketball.
True. Very true.
There's something to be said for that.
William on the Titan MR text line says, Kevin, to this point, who has been the biggest surprise for you in SEC basketball play?
Yeah, I think Missouri has bounced back pretty nicely. Vanderbilt is another team that's playing exceptionally well under Byington, and they're going to be coming here soon, I think early next week. And they've probably been the team that really jumped up and played really well. That I thought that would be a longer rebuilding project, but it often is the case. Sometimes it just takes the right coach, and a lot of people were really high on Jerry Stackhouse, but Byington has something going there that's pretty good, and they've already knocked off Kentucky and Tennessee at home. I think it's probably better that they're coming here, but the fact that they haven't played as well on the road yet, Vanderbilt, but they played pretty well at home under him.
Yeah. Kevin, I wanted to get your thoughts. Oh, well, somebody had some questions here. Your thoughts on Vinny Cincinnati being hired by Billy Napier.
Good football family, right? Sal Cincinnati, and Tino, right, had a very successful year at Indiana, and now he's going to UCLA. Tino Cincinnati, the good bloodlines, young up and comer, right? It kind of, it profiles a little bit similar to Austin Armstrong, only he's, not getting that much responsibility because I still think Ron Roberts will be calling the defense. So I think it's, he'll be working with the safeties as well. So, coached under, played under Nick Saban, coached under Bill Belichick, probably had some ties with Joe Houston, who recommended him because they worked together when they were at New England under Belichick. So I think it's not a bad move.
Mike's question on Facebook Live, brought to you by Mel Law, says, was it ever confirmed that Roberts called the defensive plays? If not, why the secrecy?
Yeah, I think it was. I think Cam Jackson mentioned that in the Senior Bowl this week, and he also talked about them doing away with the stunts in Week 4, and how that obviously simplified the scheme. And Ron went up to the press box too, as you remember, around that time. So that all contributed to the defense, certainly playing a little bit better. I thought for most of the season. Obviously, the Texas game was the one game after that where they let up a little bit, but don't forget too, Aiden Warner was a quarterback and had a lot of turnovers that kind of bled into some of those points as well. So, and Sark is a really good play caller, but I think for the most part, if you looked at the second half of the season, outside of that Texas game, the defense was pretty solid, and something that certainly they can build on for next season.
Yeah. What were your thoughts on the signing of Harrison Bailey?
I mean, I think it's, veteran backup quarterback. He's going to know his role, right? As and obviously, DJ did have the hamstring injury last year. So, you want to have somebody there that, has a little bit of experience and, certainly is a little more established. And I think with him and Tramell Jones too, you just have a little more depth in that quarterback room where you have 3 scholarship quarterbacks, because you never know through the rigors of an SEC season. Guys can get hurt, guys can get banged up. I think it's good to have, that kind of depth. So obviously the situation with Deshaun Purdy was a little strange, right? He committed and then they decommitted, but they kind of recovered and found another scholarship guy that's credible and that has some experience.
Okay, Maria here. This usually is a question every day on the program. We've gone about a week without it. She says on Facebook Live, brought to you by Mel, can anyone tell me why Billy gets away again without hiring an offensive coordinator? He is so stubborn. I'm gonna say what I say every time on this show. A, who do you want to hire? I need some names, and there's no guarantee if he does hire an offensive coordinator, people are still going to complain. I don't care who it is. It happens at Ohio State with Chip Kelly. It happens at Ole Miss. It happens everywhere, right? I just I don't understand. I think people think just because you have a title, this guy is calling the plays, that everything's going to be perfect. That ain't the case. Trust me.
Yeah, no, I agree. I just think that, people look at the track record of Billy in the offense and they wonder, is it going to get better? And, but I mean, it hasn't been terrible. People don't realize that they've been around 6th or 7th in the SEC for most years during its tenure. I mean, the defense has been more the problem than the offense, certainly in the first 3 years, and it looks like they're straightening that out a little bit. But yeah, I think that he's going to be, listen, he wants to hold on to it. He's, I think he feels like, it's the same as last year. He felt like, hey, the offense grew under Graham Mertz. This year, the offense is growing under DJ Lagway. Why bring someone in that's going to change the terminology and change things around? And, for a guy that's still a young developing quarterback, why not have that continuity? I'm sure that's his rationale with it.
Yeah. So, I mean, like I said the other day on the program, would anybody want the offensive coordinator at Notre Dame? He's had some success at different places at LSU, but watching their offense, I will take the Florida offense over Notre Dame's offense any day of the week. The reason Notre Dame played for the national title was because they led the nation in turnover margin and they wanted to run the football, and they got away with above average team. They made some plays, but I did not think Notre Dame was a very good football team. But if you just look at their offensive coordinator, he's just a guy. So I understand what fans are talking about, but I can promise you, and I say this, Kevin, to everybody, even if they hired Steve Spurrier to call plays on my show on Monday, people are going to call and complain about something because that's just the nature of the sport.
Yeah, I mean, hey, listen, they were calling for Chip Kelly's job
Yeah.
after the Michigan game, right?
Yeah.
And look at what happened, and then it completely turned around for him. So it just, yeah, it is the nature of college football, and I think that when you look at Florida's offense, there's certainly room to grow, but it's about the talent too. It's about the personnel that you have. And listen, they've got a good offensive line coming back. That's where it starts. And then the skill position guys, they're going to have to sprinkle in. I still think they need one more veteran wide receiver in the portal because I thought last year it worked well when they had both DK and Badger, and maybe they get that in the spring. But there's certainly a lot of young, promising receivers with, Dallas Wilson is enrolled here early now with Brunell Brown III, and I think they've got a lot of guys that DJ Lagway will be able to throw the ball to.
Yeah. Mark's question on YouTube, do you think, brought to you by Quality Plum, do you think Napier will limit the run plays for Lagway due to that injury? Look, I think DJ's a much better thrower than he is a runner. I think he's an okay runner. I don't think he's like electrifying. I don't think he's that fast, but he's a good runner. He'll keep the defense honest. But I don't think that people, even when he's 100% healthy, I don't think you're going to see a bunch of zone reads. That's just my personal opinion. Kevin, what do you think about that?
Yeah, he didn't really show it last year. I wonder, though, if the injuries played a role. Because I thought he ran the ball pretty well in the Mississippi State game, if you remember, and he was feeling comfortable. And
yeah,
then
like
obviously,
they're going to call plays here and there, but I think people think that they're going to call a bunch of run plays for him. I don't think that's the case. I think he'll scramble and stuff, but I think he is a far superior thrower of the football than he is a runner. That's just me watching him.
I agree. Yeah, and he throws a great deep ball, as we know, and that's his strength, pushing the ball down the field. And I think you got to utilize that strength as much as possible. That gift that he has with the timing with the receivers, and find receivers that are going to get open, obviously. I think it'll be a big year for Aiden Mizell as well in that regard, in terms of establishing as a little bit of more of a deep threat. And if, Trey Wilson can come back, obviously, from the hip surgery and be what he was his freshman year, I think that would bode really well for the offense. But, you got to, I think you like you said, run to keep it honest. But, he's not going to be a Tim Tebow where he's going to run, 20 times a game,
No, not at all. Chris says offense is not the problem. Shane says every time people like to bring it up. Look, would I love for it to be more explosive? I believe, yes. Everybody in America would. Everybody, regardless of what team you root for, wants their team to be more explosive. You got to understand the philosophy of your head coach and how he wants to win games. And it's kind of how Notre Dame won games. Play good defense, although I think we need to get way better on defense. You're going to be able to run the football because they scheme up runs really well. You get the extra guy in the box, you get man covers, and we take shots over the top. If you can't run the football, team plays zone against you, we will struggle because we have shown that our quarterbacks have trouble against zone defense reading coverage. So it's all based off the running game. And you got a really good stable of running backs. And but for anybody that thinks we're going to throw it 45 to 50 times a game and score 48 points a game, that ain't happening. You're watching the wrong team. That's the facts.
Complimentary football, right?
Yes.
But hey, they scored what, 48 against Kentucky, but they did that by getting a pick six.
Yeah.
Doing some other things too. I mean, you could still, have blowout games in different ways, and I think that's what Napier's trying to build, what he calls that whole complementary football, model. But you have to develop the defense, and I still think this offense, with DJ fully healthy, can take some deep shots and create some exciting. They averaged 28 yards of completion in that Kentucky game, so. It's just going to depend on how the defenses play it too, though, like you pointed out.
Yeah, Kevin, appreciate your time. Have a great weekend. Enjoy watching the Gators, and we'll talk to you soon, buddy.
All right, thanks, Shane.
That's Kevin Brockway from the Gainesville Sun. Take a quick time out. Come back. We'll be joined by Mark Long. Talk a little Jags, a little NFL. We'll continue talking Gator talk. You're watching and listening to PodUp with Matthews in the Morning from the International Diamond Center Studios. We'll be right back.
Our premium sponsors are Campus USA Credit Union,
International Diamond Center,
Meldon Law, QC Kinetics, Dave & Buster's, UF Health Orthopedics and Sports Medicine Institute, JF Hayden Craft Liqueurs, Bishop's Pitmaster Barbecue, Florida Cracker Kitchen, Los Linderos Tequila. Gridiron sponsors are Baker Sporting Goods, Cogent Bank, Comfort Temp, Electronics World, Florida Victorious, Gallo Car Wash, Miapa Latin Cafe, Peachland Dental, Quality Plumbing, Ruse Ogre State Farm, Silverback Concrete, 84 Lumber, Big Mills Cheesesteak, Celebrate Primary Care, Dowling Signs, Gator Bait Media, Gator Dominoes, Ironwood Golf Course, Okido America, Tropical Smoothie Cafe, UF Bookstores, Nest and Wow, MG&A Wealth Management. Watch and listen to us live on Facebook and YouTube. Listen to the podcast whenever on Apple or Google Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen to your favorite podcast. Remember to like, follow, and subscribe so you don't miss an episode. To become a sponsor, call my man Freddie at 352-284-3733.
Hi there, this is Coach Steve Spurrier, and I want to let you know that by popular demand, Spurrier's Gridiron Grill's delicious brunch is now served in a premium buffet. You have spoken, we have listened, and we're now serving Gainesville's only elevated buffet, complete with an omelet station, ginger sage chicken sausage, shredded short rib, and of course our chicken and waffles. Plus, you can enjoy bottomless mimosas and Bloody Marys. So join us every Saturday and Sunday from 11 to 3 for the best brunch in town.
What's up, everyone? I'm Mike Pouncey, and this is my twin brother Marquise Pouncey, and this is Life After Football.
Let's go. We are the owners of Tropical Distillery, and JF Hayden's is our liqueur brand.
We have 5 different flavors: a mango, a lychee, an espresso, citrus, and key lime pie. We pride ourselves on not only being a Florida-made brand, but also a cocktail solution. With that being said, cheers
And go Gators.
The most important thing I learned from my father was work ethic and integrity. Never veer away from integrity, even if it costs you money.
International Diamond Center owner Keith LeClaire.
The core value for IDC is to protect the customer.
That means offering the largest selection, uncompromising quality, the strongest warranties, and honest guidance from experts who are not paid on commission. International Diamond Center at Celebration Point. Online, shopidc.com.
Welcome back to the International Diamond Center studios. Miapa Latin Cafe. Discover the ultimate Cuban culinary experience at Miapa Latin Cafe. 5 locations in Gainesville and Alachua. You're never far from the best Cuban food north of Miami. Back to the Titan More Hotline, courtesy of Comfort Tent. We're joined by Mark Long from the Associated Press. Morning, Mark. How you doing, bud?
Good morning, Shane. I'm doing well, thanks.
All right, let's start. We'll talk a little Gators, but let's jump into the Jags. We got a lot of people that follow the Jaguars on this program. New head coach Liam Cohen. If Mark Long was going to be introduced as the new head football coach of the Jags, would you have a good Duval yell?
Oh my gosh, it would be amazing, and I would spend days on it. Like they hired Liam Cohen they hired him on Thursday. They knew he was their guy on Wednesday, right? And so they don't do their introductory press conference on Monday. So you literally have from Wednesday to Monday, 5 days. That's all I would work on. Forget your speech. Forget dressing the kids up, in Trevor Lawrence jerseys. Forget trying to get a nice teal tie. I work on my Duval. That's it. That's all I got to work on. And he messed it up. He gets up there and it's like some weird kind of I don't know, it sounded bad in person. And then it sounded worse when I watched it, watched the replay of it. And it's like, whoa, this is bad. Whoever sat in the room and told him, hey, this is a big thing. You need to work on it. Here's how you say it. Fire him immediately. That person should have been fired. It was that bad. And then he gets a chance. They do this last night. They did a meet the coach, kind of a pep rally in the stadium. It actually was supposed to be in the stadium, got moved out of the stadium because I think they realized they weren't going to have enough people to make it not look weird in the stadium. So they move it outside the stadium, but he does it again and messed it up again. So it's like, what are we doing? Who over there is in charge of Duval? Whoever it is, has got to get it right. Could you do it? Can I hear yours?
Well, Duval.
There you go.
Pretty good, right?
Yes,
that's the first time I've ever done that.
No way.
And I'll never do it again, probably. Maybe they should have hired me as the damn coach.
They should have. You could be the GM, EVP, Executive Vice President. You get a role over there.
Yes.
I talk to Jeremy Foley quite often, and every time he calls, it's because the Jags have messed something up. And not every time, but often it's because the Jags have messed something up. And he seriously says, I need to be in charge. I could be an NFL general manager and do it better than the people who have tried to do it in Jacksonville have done. I feel the same way about you.
So speaking of that, do you like the hire? And then Tony Baselli is now going to be somewhere in the front office. Tell us where that's going to be.
Yeah, Tony Baselli is going to probably end up as the executive vice president. They haven't defined the term yet, but that's where it's going to be. And I like it. I like it because Shad Khan is an absentee owner. He's been doing this for 13 years. He's not in the building. He splits his time between Illinois. He's in Champaign, Illinois, and what's the place next to Fort Myers? Why am I missing that?
Naples.
So he has places in Naples and then a place in Champaign, Illinois, and then he's on his yacht all over the country in London. So he's not in Jacksonville. Just not there. So it's a very important, I think, to have a lifeline, a direct line to what the coach and the GM are doing. And you're going to get lied to, right? Especially when things are going bad, people start wanting to cover their own butts. So this hire, Tony Baselli, loves Jacksonville, loves the Jaguars, spent most of his career there, still, is part of the team. So he's a perfect person to be involved, be there 24/7 almost, and be able to tell the owner, this is what's working, this isn't what's working, here's what we need to do to get it fixed. So finally, Shad Khan's going to get that part right. He tried to do that with Tom Coughlin, and it was a good idea. Wrong guy. You hire a guy to a role that he doesn't really want. He still wants to be a coach, right? Tom Coughlin wanted to be the coach. He wanted to be the general manager. You put him in this EVP role, and he's still trying to pull all these other strings, and it didn't work. But it is the right idea, I think, especially for an absentee owner.
So I guess Baselli is no longer going to be in the booth with Frangie, huh?
Yeah, I would think that's out. And then back, you asked about Cohen. I like the hire, and I like it for one reason only, and that's because you had to hire somebody to fix Trevor Lawrence. They've invested $275 million in Trevor Lawrence. They actually wasted everybody's time by interviewing 5 defensive guys. They should have interviewed 10 offensive guys because that was the direction they wanted to go. I don't know what they were thinking. Maybe they thought one of these defensive guys could end up being their defensive coordinator. But really, they interviewed 5 offensive guys and settled on Liam Cohen. I think Ben Johnson was their guy. They thought they had a good shot at Ben Johnson, and Ben Johnson just kind of, pulled something that they weren't going to deal with, which was this. They lose. Detroit loses in the divisional round, and then the next day, Monday comes around, and Ben Johnson's agent calls the teams that are interested. It's Chicago, Las Vegas, and Jacksonville, and says, okay, give me your offer. And Jacksonville's like, whoa, wait, what? Let's bring him in. We'll sit down and interview the guy. I've never met him. This is the owner, Shad Khan. I've never met Ben Johnson, but Ben's camp wanted to have offers. They wanted to see where's the money? What's the real money here? And basically the Jags said no. Sounds like the Raiders said no. And the Bears said yes. And he ended up signing with Chicago without an in-person interview.
Wow. Interesting. He's going to call the plays, right?
He is going to call the plays.
Yeah, that's what I thought. Dan's question for you on Facebook Live, brought to you by Mel Law. Any thoughts on the Brian Schottenheimer getting the Dallas job?
I mean, I'm biased because I know Brian and I like Brian. So I do think it was an interesting hire. Dallas does a lot of interesting things. They went out. That's a little bit outside the box, right? He wasn't on anybody else's radar as a head coach. So he ends up getting a head coach. That's a Jerry Jones move for sure. But I'm not going to, I didn't know anything about Sean McVay. You hear some things and there's a lot of good out there, and the guy ends up being a great head coach. So I don't know, But what I will say is we've seen a lot of guys, and this is Liam Cohen too. We've seen a lot of good offensive coordinators in this league not be good head coaches. Sometimes it just doesn't work out. Adam Gase for sure comes to mind. Josh McDaniels comes to mind. But there's a long list of good offensive coordinators who couldn't make the transition. So we'll see with Schottenheimer and Liam Cohen. I get why you want to do that. You want to hire the offense because we're in an offensive league. It's, as Shad Khan called it, it's modern football. Modern football is not, running the ball and playing defense anymore, even though you could make a case that, these two Super Bowl teams can run the ball and play defense. But it is what, most teams want to do is get it right on offense and figure it out on defense.
Yeah. Barone 71 on YouTube, brought to you by Claude Plum, said, where does Mark think Kyle Trask will be playing next year? Does he stay in Tampa Bay or look for a place to compete as a starter?
Yeah, they're in love with Baker Mayfield, so I would be surprised if Trask stays there. You got to go get a chance to start. There's what are we got? 15 good quarterbacks in the league, and that's a stretch. There's maybe 6 or 7 elite quarterbacks. So half the league is open competition or guys who are, a couple of bad games away from getting benched. So I would, if I was Kyle Trask, I would go somewhere and compete. I would look at Las Vegas. Even if they bring in Russell Wilson there, you got to at least like your chances of playing behind Russell Wilson and getting a chance if either A, Russell gets hurt, or B, things don't go well and they go, okay, we got to see what the other guy has.
So the only team in the NFL that has not hired a coach, is it still the Saints?
It is. And then sounds like they're waiting on Kellen Moore. So, and they won't do that before the Super Bowl. So I think we saw this with Minnesota a few years back. They waited and waited and waited till the Rams got done and then hired Kevin O'Connell, who was the Rams offensive coordinator under McVay. So I think this is going to be something similar. I think Kellen Moore is their guy, and they're waiting until after the Super Bowl to make it official.
Florida Cracker is the brand for original Floridians. Great food and Southern hospitality in the center of the universe, Brooksville, Florida. FloridaCracker.com. A few more minutes with Mark Long from the Associated Press. Who you like in the Super Bowl?
Oh gosh, please let it be the Eagles. I mean, I have Chiefs fatigue. Andy Reid's great. I think we get overloaded with Mahomes, right? We've overloaded with Taylor Swift and Travis Kelce, and I get most of the free world, wants to see Taylor Swift celebrating from the press box or from a suite up there. That's fine, but I've got fatigue. I really wanted to be anyone but the Eagles and the Chiefs, and it ends up being the Eagles and the Chiefs. But give me the Eagles. I'll take Barkley. That'd be a good story.
Yeah. Do you have Chiefs fatigue like everybody? I don't, because I think I'm on record from about 4 or 5 years ago saying Mahomes was going to break all of Brady's records. Is it because I think people hate the Chiefs or have an issue with the Chiefs because of Taylor Swift? I really do. I really do.
No, I love Taylor Swift. I have no problem with Taylor Swift. I want a little bit more parity. That's it. I just want parity.
But did you have this issue when the Patriots had their
Oh
run?
yeah. Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
And I love Tom Brady. And I think he's fantastic and he is the GOAT for sure. But I got Patriots fatigue and I got Bill Belichick fatigue. And, I think there's a point where you just want to see somebody else. It's not that I want to see them fail or want to see the Chiefs or Taylor Swift fail. I don't need that. I'm ready to see somebody else celebrate.
Yeah, true. Andy's question on Facebook Live, brought to you by Mel Law. What kind of NFL player do you think Trevor Etienne will be? Will he be better than Travis?
No, I don't think he'll be better than Travis. I think Travis is built for the NFL. I'm not sure Trevor is. I don't know that he blocks well enough. I don't know that he catches passes well enough. And we'll see his durability. He went to Georgia to be the number one and missed a lot of time over the course of the season with some various injuries. So I'm not sure. His brother's bigger, certainly bigger in where it matters with, the bottom down for running backs. So I think he will end up maybe having a couple of good years, but I think long-term, probably just a middling running back who's, 3 or 4 good years and a team's looking to move on.
Yeah, I agree with that for sure. let's talk Gator football before we get you out of here. Billy's made a few new hires. I think that's probably going to be it, I would assume. End of the season on a high note, winning 4 straight games. Got DJ coming back. Got a pretty good class coming in. I think people around the country are excited about the Gators. What do you see moving into next fall?
Well, I'm excited about them too. 4-game winning streaks, the longest in the SEC, carrying into 2025. So they've got some momentum, and I understand what Billy did. Billy saw this. We've got momentum. We've kind of figuring it out on both sides of the ball. I don't want to rock the boat. I don't want to change up too much. So I'm going to try to harness that, bottle it up, and bring it back next year. Again, I don't know if it was good enough on either side of the ball to bring it back as is and just assume it's going to get better. Billy Donovan, who was here a long time, had a saying, just because they're a year older does not mean they're going to be a year better. And that's what I look at this team and I go, just because DJ is going to be a sophomore, just because they're going to bring back a lot of pieces, I don't know that it's going to take this gigantic jump. So I'm a little bit concerned about that because I thought he should have hired an offensive coordinator. I thought he should have changed it up on defense a little bit, hired a new defensive coordinator. And Sunseri's new life, but he's young, right? So I just think all this does is, I think Billy could have hired an offensive coordinator, could have hired, an experienced defense coordinator, and maybe taken some of the pressure off himself. Instead, the moves that he made, all I think he did was put a bigger target on himself so that if it doesn't go well, he can't make a move and say, okay, the offensive coordinator wasn't working. I need to switch that up. He can't say, oh, I made this change on defense and it, backfired. Give me another shot. Billy is making these decisions. And to me, all he's done is kind of putting himself even more so on the hot seat. Now, it might work out and that'll be great. And he'll look like a genius if it does. But boy, if it doesn't, Billy's right back where he was in September of 2024.
So when you look at next year, everybody wants to talk about how many games does Billy need to win to keep his job, blah, blah, blah. I think sometime in November, the Gators need to be in the talk of possibly making the playoffs. Is that too far-fetched? But that's how I feel personally.
And I would even take it a step further. Go to the Florida-Georgia game in early November and not be a double-digit underdog. Go in there and actually have a shot, a legitimate shot, not a puncher's chance, not if DJ played the whole game. And they played well last year. They surprised everybody with how competitive they were in that game for 3 quarters, even without DJ Lagway. But I think you got to go into that game thinking, hey, this thing's a toss-up. Florida could absolutely win this game and be in the playoff because that's the game you're going to probably have to win to really solidify your playoff positioning.
Or Texas comes here after Georgia, correct?
Correct.
Yeah, that's a game that could be really interesting with Eli Manning rolling into town. All right, Gator basketball, you cover them as well. You think they win tomorrow?
No, I don't think they win. Only just because when you punch somebody in the face the way Tennessee got punched in the face, I just think there's a lot there. A lot of pride at stake. Tennessee's a good team. What happened in Gainesville doesn't happen to them very often, even though they're coming off a couple losses. So I just think, this will be a big test for Tennessee in terms of, what are they? Who are they? Right? You got punched in the face in Gainesville. You got punched the last 2 games. What are you going to do at home against the top 5 team? Do you show up, or is this the start of a really big slide? And, Tennessee ends up where it's been for the last 30 years, which is not making a deep run in the NCAA tournament.
And here's a text on the Titan and Mark text line from Jonathan. He says, Mark, do you think now that Todd Golden has been cleared, that will free up the players on the team? I don't think the players really cared, personally.
I don't think it showed if they did.
Right. I didn't mean it that way.
Yeah. No, this team has not been an issue for this team. Has it been a distraction? Absolutely. For Todd Golden, for his family, maybe for people within the program. But I don't think it showed with the players, especially these backcourt guys. They're just so cool, calm, and collected. They're so good. And even the young guys in the front court, they just have this real laid back, chill attitude that I don't think it bothered them anymore. But could it rally this team a little bit? Absolutely. I think more than anything, I'm on record saying I'm concerned about what happens to Todd Golden moving forward, because even though they come out with all these strong statements of support, I mean, it was church mice for 4 months, right? From the university, from the UAA. Nobody was out saying anything publicly in support of Todd Golden. And I just always felt like, man, if that's me and that's my employer and nobody publicly has my back, what is that? So I've been for months now saying, this is, how to run off a coach 101, right? This is the handbook for how do you tell the guy to go take another job? This is doing it. So what I would say there is Florida's got a chance right now, could do it any day now, is give Todd Golden a 10-year, $70 million deal, 7 a year, and show him. I mean, you said how much you supported him after the fact. Now really show him and show some commitment there and try to keep him around. Because if not, I do think he's going to be a hot commodity based on what he's done with this program in a short span. And he's playing basketball that we haven't seen here, even in the Billy Donovan era. What kind of the brand of basketball he's bringing and playing is unparalleled in the history of Florida basketball.
Yeah, no doubt about it. Good stuff as always. Appreciate your time. Let everybody know they can follow you on Twitter.
Yeah, at AP Mark Long. I don't tweet as much as I used to because, Twitter isn't what it used to be. But you can still find me, and if I'm feeling it, I tweet.
All right. Appreciate your time, bud. Have a
hey,
good
thanks,
weekend.
Shane. Have a good day. Yep.
That's Mark Long. Join us on the Titan More Hotline, courtesy of Comfort Temp. Electronics World, integration and design specialist for smart home automation and entertainment, affordable local installation service and support. electronicsworld.net. Let's get to This Day in Sports, brought to you by Campus USA Credit Union. Put some star power to work in your financial life. Campus USA Credit Union. 2018 Houston guard James Harden becomes the first player in NBA history to log a 60-point triple-double. 60 points, 10 rebounds, 11 assists, and 4 steals, and a block against the Magic. That's This Day in Sports, brought to you by Campus USA Credit Union. I want to thank both Kevin Brockway and Mark Long. We'll have JC back on Monday, and we'll talk about all the weekend games and all that good stuff. But in the meantime, if injuries occur whenever and however, and it's never convenient for sprains, strains, and minor fractures, UF Health Orthocare makes it convenient for you 7 days a week, including evenings. Walk-ins are welcome. Check them out. UF Health Orthopedics and Sports Medicine. Have a great weekend, folks. We'll see you on Monday. Take care.